Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Take 3. This is the third time I've started this one. I swore I wouldn't do that again. I'm just going to let it run now and see what happens. A quick announcement before I go any further. From next week, the videos will be published on Saturday morning instead of Sundays. I seem to be doing an awful lot of rushing about on a Sunday morning, trying to get the videos edited and all that sort of thing, and last week I didn't actually get it published until I think it was nearly 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So I figure the best idea now is to go ahead of myself ever so slightly. This one is actually being recorded on Saturday morning, even though you won't see it until what is now your time, Sunday morning, and tomorrow I will record next week's video. So it's virtually all ready to go on Saturday morning. So that is the plan, and we all know how our plans go, don't we? So we'll see how we go with it, but that's what I want to do from next week. So hopefully you'll see the videos on Saturday morning instead of Sunday. Let's see now. Oh, these surveys, wow. These things, these top 10, was it top 30 movies from different decades? How many have you seen? Oh my God, I think you pretty much know how this was. You must have known how this was going to go with me. The 70s I did quite well on because I've seen countless movies from the 70s. The 80s, not so well. The 90s, appalling. The 2000s, even more appalling. And the 2010s, I don't even know why I bothered doing it. So it has caused me to look at my sort of film watching habits a bit. My thing is, the only time I can really watch a movie is at the weekend. Obviously with working long hours and looking after my mother after work, I don't get home until sort of 5-6 o'clock, by which time all I want to do is have a bit of tea and go to bed, and then it's repeat for the next 5 days. Obviously I've got things to do at the weekend as well, so I can't watch as many movies as I would like, but I am going to try and step it up a bit, mainly to catch up with some of these movies. Seeing those lists was a bit of an education, actually. I didn't realise how few I'd actually watched from, say, the last 20-30 years. So I've started making a list, and what I'm going to do is come up with some kind of a proper schedule, a bit like a diary, when I can put the movies in some kind of an order as to when I'm going to watch them, because I look at the stack of movies that I've got upstairs and it's like, where the hell do I start? So I'm going to put it in some sort of an order. This afternoon I'm planning on watching, hopefully, Iron Man 2. And there are a couple of movies that I've been loaned that I'm going to try and take a look at. So that's that. But yeah, those surveys, they were, yeah, quite an eye-opener for me. Probably not for you. I think you pretty much knew exactly what was going to happen with that one. As for sequels, I do enjoy them. I do like them. I just never seem to sort of get round to them. Yes, I know I've seen the original Rocky. I would probably need to watch it again because it was quite a while ago. But I don't have a problem with sequels, I promise you. It's nothing to do with the fact that, you know, I've seen the first one, so I don't need to watch the others. I mean, I've seen all the Friday the 13th films, all 10 or 11 of them, countless times. Halloween, same. It just seems to be some of the major franchises that I've missed out on. Back to the Future, I've seen that once and loved it, but I've not seen 2 and 3, so that's obviously gone on the list. I hardly dare mention this one. Lethal Weapon, that's another one that I have to get into, hopefully within the next week or so. At least make inroads into that one. There are so many, but I promise you I will get round to them, and I will be telling you what I think of them as we go along. So I will be reviewing them and talking about the likes of Back to the Future. I mean, I've seen Predator, but I've not seen Predator 2 or any of the other sequels. I do tend to think sometimes that the formula seems to get a little bit diluted the further we go down the line. So even if I watch, like I've seen Rocky, I'm not expecting the others to be any better. There are very few sequels, in my opinion, that end up being better than the original. Aliens, would have to be the first one that I think of. Godfather 2 would be another. I can't think of that many others. Maybe you can help me out with that one. Are there any movie sequels that you think are actually better or equal to the originals? Pop your answers in the comments. I'd be very curious to know what you think of that. My final word on this, Will Smith, God almighty, the fallout continues. I think a couple of studios, I can't remember which ones, Netflix is one, have put projects of his on hold. And I believe he has now been banned from any activities to do with the Academy for 10 years. So he's paid a very dear price for that one. I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it. Having seen interviews this week with a lot of the people that were there, the other stars, a lot of them said it was actually quite frightening. As much as people laugh at it now, it was not amusing at the time. And the problem is, it obviously detracted and distracted from the reason that people were there. There's a documentary movie called Summer of Soul. It's a very similar thing to Woodstock, about an all-black rock concert that took place in the 60s, that virtually got wiped from the history books. It's supposed to be a superb movie that I really want to catch up with, and I believe it won one of the Oscars, but it won the Oscar straight after the incident with Will Smith and Chris Rock. And the man apparently gave a really impassioned speech to the Academy and to the people that were there, but hardly anybody heard it because everybody was looking at their iPhones, looking at the footage of what had just happened. So I honestly don't know. He shouldn't have done it the way he did it, obviously. And as for Chris Rock, I would not be asking him to host it again in the very near future. Apparently, last year's Oscars had the lowest viewing figures ever. It's beginning to lose its relevance a little bit, I think. And what they planned on doing this year, they introduced 3 female, what do you call them, compares, hosts, who apparently did a really, really good job. Unfortunately, it will now be remembered for nothing more than that horrible incident. So we'll see how it goes, but like I say, Will Smith is paying a very dear price for this one, and I'm not sure whether he'd be thinking that it's worth it now. I get the feeling his career is going to suffer a bit for that one, but we'll see how we go. The other thing, and yes, I have got my notes here, I keep glancing down at them. Disney Plus, oh my god. I would like Disney Plus. I subscribe to quite a few channels, as you know, sort of Netflix, Prime, BFI Player, Shudder. Disney Plus is probably the only one I haven't got. It is not on Virgin Media as yet, and I would like it for all of the Star Wars content and probably the Marvel content, as I seem to be getting more into that one at the moment. But I saw an article, was it last week? I did put it on Facebook, where they are censoring certain shows. There was an image that was published of a violent scene. I believe it was one of the Star Wars series, and one scene showed it completely bloodless, and the other scene showed it with all the wounds. Why on earth, if you're paying for a streaming service, you do not expect your programs to be cut or censored in any way, shape or form. So I don't know what Disney Plus are playing at with that. I can only assume it was for screening at an earlier time when there would be a younger audience watching, but I still don't agree with it. It just doesn't sit right with me. So I will be thinking twice about Disney Plus when it comes on. I'm going to have to read up as to what their policy is on this, because I absolutely don't agree with it. The other one that I saw yesterday is that all of the Bond films will be landing on Prime Video on April the 15th, I believe. And my immediate reaction was, yeah, but will they be cut? Because I did an article a while ago on one of the videos where I showed off the box set that I've got of all the Bond films up to, I think the last one in it was Skyfall. And the reason I did that thing was I'd read an article that week stating that they were now looking at cutting the more sexist aspects and scenes and dialogue from the movies before they re-released them as another Blu-ray box set or a 4K box set or whatever. And I was basically telling everybody to grab this box set quick before it gets deleted, because all you'll be able to get is these sanitized versions of the Bond films, which I think is absolute bloody crap. But it's that same thing again, people telling us what we can and can't watch. So Disney Plus, I absolutely don't agree with that, and I won't be watching any of the Bond films on Prime, mostly because I've already got them. But even if I hadn't, I'd be a little bit miffed, because having seen them so many times, like the Carry On films, I would know straight away, immediately, if a scene or a line of dialogue has been cut. So yeah, that's that's my rant for this week about it's not so much political correctness but censorship. I just don't agree with it, and that's it. My review for this week, it's only one. I've only really had a chance to watch one. It was a movie that I watched last week. It's called Fanny Lye Deliver'd. It's set in the 16th century during Cromwell's rule. It's set in a tiny little village, a very tiny village. A couple played by Maxine Peake, who I remember from Dinner Ladies, and also Charles Dance. Charles Dance is the typical old curmudgeon, very religious. His wife, not quite so. They have a young son. They live out in the middle of nowhere in a tiny cottage, quite an idyllic little life. And into their lives come a couple who are on the run, played by Freddie Fox, and I can't remember the actress's name, but they come in with very radical ideas on religion and all that sort of thing. They are completely rejected by Charles Dance's character, on the grounds that he doesn't agree with their views. He does warm to them slightly. It's a film of three parts. The first third is basically the characters arriving into this situation, ingratiating themselves with their hosts. It then turns into a home invasion movie, and then in the third act it just goes full on Straw Dogs. It's a cracking movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It's over 2 hours. It's not exactly fast paced. It's a very, very slow burner, but I really, really enjoyed it. It's quite violent in parts. As I say, we've got the Straw Dogs element in the final third of it, but the acting is superb. The locations are just gorgeous, but there's a lot of twisted stuff going off in there. If you like your sort of, I wouldn't call it a horror, it's more of a psychological drama. But if you like that kind of thing, you could do much worse than have a look at this one. It's called Fanny Lye Deliver'd, and it is well worth a look. And that caused me to look at it, to do a sort of a list. It's what I would class as folk horror. Now, folk horror, for those that don't know, is anything, usually if a movie's set in the countryside, it's a rural setting, and if it's to do with like religion and superstition, they would class it as folk horror. So I've done a quick list of 5 of what I would consider to be the best folk horror movies, if you want to get into that. These are in no particular order. First of all, that one, Blood on Satan's Claw. It's to do with a farmer who discovers a skull with the eyeball still intact. There is a lot of superstition in here. It's a very violent movie, made in 1971. I believe it caused a bit of a stink with the censors at the time. And I remember seeing a movie at the cinema around about 1972, and the trailer for this was shown, and the trailer was only probably 2 minutes long, but it scared the crap out of me. And I've never ever forgotten that image of the skull with the eyeball and the worm crawling across it. It was just horrifying at the time, but that's the kind of thing you remember as a kid, innit? Next one. This is a classic. Robin Hardy's The Wicker Man, starring Edward Woodward, Britt Ekland. It's to do with a mainland policeman who's shipped out to a remote island off the Highlands, called Summer Isle to investigate the case of a missing little girl. He gets caught in all the folklore, the superstition, and the ending is just horrifying. It still is now. A lot of people regard this as an absolute classic. There are also a lot of people who don't like it at all. I fall into the first one. I love this movie. I think the soundtrack to it is absolutely great. I'm not a massive fan of folk music, but the stuff that's in this is cracking. But again, if you like your horrors slightly strange, slightly weird, you could do much worse than that one. Next one, Witchfinder General. To me, this is Vincent Price's greatest hour. He plays the Witchfinder Matthew Hopkins, who goes around the country with his assistant John Stern, basically trying witches, hanging them, torturing them. It was directed by Michael Reeves in 1968. This caused major problems with the censors due to the violence, which is still wince-inducing today. The torture scenes are pretty grim. The hanging scenes are bad. They burn a lot of witches. The story is brilliant, and the soundtrack is just glorious. I might publish a little bit on this, little bit of the soundtrack on the Facebook page later on. But it's a wonderful, wonderful film. I've seen this loads of times, and the final scene with the kicking out of the eye, I still watch it sort of like that. But this to me is Vincent Price's finest hour. Michael Reeves only made, I think it was 3 or possibly 4 films. He died very young, but the 3 films that he did do, I think one of the others was called The Sorcerers, was very good, which is coming out in a box set very shortly, probably in a few weeks. I can't remember what the other one is now, but there are 3 in the box set, and I always certainly will be investing in that because I do like Witchfinder General, and I do like his films. So, Penda's Fen. Now, this is a TV kind of thing. It's a TV play from 1974. Now, I haven't actually seen this. I bought this a short while ago, but have never actually had the chance to watch it. But I'm going to have a look at it. I rediscovered it on the shelf the other night whilst looking for this list of sort of folk horror things, and I thought, yeah, we'll have a go at that. So I will have a go at this, but it looks very, very bizarre. If I just show you the back very briefly, you'll get a sort of rough idea. It's all superstition and folklore, and it's a 12 certificate, so it's going to be pretty grim by 1974 standards, but I will let you know on that one. And finally, in the 70s, this was a series. If you were around in the 70s and a teenager, you will remember this as being quite scary stuff. Children of the Stones. Remember that one? Yeah. Kids TV show. This is when kids TV shows were aimed at kids, but they were treated like adults. Oh my. It's the story of a scientist and his son who visit a village called Avebury, which has a stone circle, a bit like Stonehenge. The village is ruled over by Ian Cuthbertson, who lives in a manor. And it's all to do with witchcraft, superstition, the kind of thing that you probably wouldn't aim at kids nowadays, but in the 70s, anything went. So if you've not seen this, it still holds up today. The acting is, yes, a little bit ropey, but you're talking 1977 and a kid's show, so it's not the best sometimes, but overall it's all right. I think it's brilliant. I've seen this many, many times, and I still love watching it now. Takes me back to a simpler, happier time. So yeah, Children of the Stone. So that is what I would class as my top 5 folk horror movies. Now, what have I been buying this week? Very quickly, I'll rattle through these. First one, oh my god, I put a post on Facebook this week about Crystal Lake Memories, which is a new Blu-ray that's coming out, which is a massive thing. Loads of documentaries on the making of Friday the 13th, interviews with the cast and all that sort of thing. And I think I put something like, I really need this in my life. Well, I was going through some of the Blu-rays, that I've got upstairs, and it turns out I've already got it in my life. This is how ridiculous it gets sometimes. I have no idea what I've got up there. Now, I'm assuming this is the same one that's coming out. I bought this a while ago. It's an import, and it's got the DVD and the Blu-ray, but I believe the running time is the same, so I've no reason to suspect that it's going to be any different. So I'm really glad that I didn't pre-order that one, because I would have had 2 copies of that. But like I say, that's the kind of thing that happens. I buy things and half the time I don't realise I've actually got them. Another thing I got, I can't wait to read this, Dracula, Frankenstein and Friends. And this is written by a guy who was around in the 70s and remembers the BBC Two horror double bills that ruled Saturday nights, as far as I'm concerned. It's quite a thick book, and it's I gather it's to do with his memories of watching them, how they affected him, that kind of thing. And also the history of the horror double bills. So I'm really looking forward to having a read of that one. This is one that I've been loaned by a guy at work. I had no idea this chap was into sort of world cinema, but the Three Colours trilogy. I've never seen it. It's a Polish trilogy of movies. I can't wait to have a watch of this. Really, really looking forward to this. I've heard of them, but I know absolutely nothing about them. And he said that it's best that you go into these completely blind and see what you get out of it. So I'm looking forward to having a look at those this week so I can get those back to him. A couple that I bought. Stop, Look, Listen. This is a series of public information films issued by the Central Office of Information in the 70s and the 60s, probably before that as well. And these were screened on TV and in schools at the time, and they were a way of warning kids about the dangers of certain things, adults as well. These were always on TV in the 70s. I got another one as well at the same time, Charlie Says, which is 180, is it 180? 280 live and animated movies, including the Charlie the Cat things, Tufty the Squirrel, and some more serious ones as well. Who can forget Dark and Lonely Water with the voice of Donald Pleasance? Scared the crap out of everybody. And there was one, a lot of these were like horror movies, little horror movies. One was called Apaches, which was trying to warn kids about the dangers of hanging around farms. And it was absolutely horrific. I remember watching it and thinking, my God, what on earth is this? And you watch it now and it's still powerful stuff. You got a little girl drinking something out of a bottle and it's poison. It's the accidents are just horrifying. They were basically designed to warn kids of the dangers of life in general, but specific areas of life, i.e. hanging around farmyards and that. So if you like a bit of history, I love watching these. And the relevance of the messages in these still apply now, I think. Why they've stopped screening these, I don't know. They may look a little bit dated, but the messages are as pertinent now as they were back then. Chris, you'll like this. I think you'll all like this one. The Mad Max anthology. This is all 4 movies. The original first 3, Mad Max, The Road Warrior and Thunderdome, and also Fury Road, which is the one that divides people a little bit. Mostly because I think it's something to do with Tom Hardy being in it. I think that's what's to do with it. But I'm looking forward to watching these because I've only ever seen the original, which I remember watching at Burton Odeon when it first came out, probably 1979, 1980. I'm being absolutely blown away by the first 10 minutes. That car chase, there had never been anything close to that as far as I was concerned. So I fell in love with it. And why I didn't follow it up by watching the sequels, I don't know. But that's a pretty good example of what I was talking about earlier. Right, Shutter Island. I've copied you on this one, Jason. I didn't understand it the first time round. Didn't get it at all. But I thought, with what you were saying about it, it was worth a second look. It's not even out of the cellophane yet. So I got this one quite cheap. So I'll be having a look at that one, giving it a second go. I didn't realise it was Martin Scorsese that had directed this. So it's got to be worth a watch. So I will be getting into that one. This one recommended by Chris, Shooter. This is this week's Bin It or Keep It. Mostly because I haven't had a chance to watch one. But this is next week's Spin It or Keep It. I will try and watch this one sometime during the course of this week, and I will let you know whether it's going to be a binner or a keeper. I think it'll probably be a keeper. Chris swears by this one. He loves this. He's just bought the 4K of it. So I will be watching this one to see what it's like. But from what you said about it, mate, I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy that one. Stealing Dave Lowe's thunder a little bit, the Batman series. This has got, let's see, 120 original broadcast episodes of the Batman series. Loving, I mean, I really, really loved this series when it first came out. It was always on after school, along with stuff like Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. You'd also got Batman in there. You've got a host of extras, over 3 hours of them. The only thing this is missing, and I think this would have made this absolutely perfect, is the 1966 movie version of the series, starring Adam West and Burt Ward. I think that would have made a really nice addition to this. Whether it's something to do with copyright or Fox, or because I think it's Fox that issued the movie, I don't know, but that would have made an absolutely cracking bonus feature. I've seen the movie quite a few times. I can't remember the last time I watched this, probably when I was at school, so I'm looking forward to having a watch of that one. And finally, I was recommended this one by a guy at work, another guy that I didn't realise was into world cinema, recommended me this one, Weekend. It's by Jean-Luc Godard, who directed Breathless, one of my favourite movies of the French New Wave, along with the 400 Blows and stuff like that. This is another of his, but this is supposed to be very, very controversial. So I need to have a look at that one very, very soon. That's pretty much everything I bought this week, so let's push that to one side. And finally, let's see. I asked everybody last week to give me a suggestion on what we could call the quote section. And Chris, I'm happy to say you came up with the answer. I looked at it, read it, and thought, that's it, that's the one. I'm going to call it Quote Encounters. So thanks for that, Chris. So the quote thing is going to be now Quote Encounters, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So this week, it's from a 70s movie. It's a couple of lines. I'm not going to finish the last part of the sentence off because it will absolutely give it away completely. But just see how you do with this one. Here we go. You know how many times somebody told me I was good in my life? Twice, 2 times. This race today, and there. That's it. That's all it is. So drop your answers in the comments below. I'd be very surprised if anybody got that one. I'd be really, really surprised if anybody got that one. Caroline might, possibly, but we'll see. Right, that's it for this week, folks. My God, I've rattled on this week. 28 minutes. Good God, this is going to take some editing. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. As I say, next week's video, I'll be publishing it hopefully on the Saturday morning. That is the plan, so we'll see how it goes. So thanks for joining me. If you've enjoyed the video, just give it a thumbs up and also subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks, and I will talk to you all again next week with... let's see, I'll be doing a Doctor Who update as well, because I'll have finished the Space Museum by then. And I will also have a major announcement about a movie that I've finally got to watch, which I'm sure you're all going to breathe a sigh of relief about. But that's coming next week. So take care, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks again for joining me. Ta-ra.